Hi, I'm Gwen. I'm Associate Professor in Gender Studies at Skidmore College. I'm happy to announce my newly released book, Bio-Imperialism: Disease, Terror, and the Construction of National Fragility. You can check out my table of contents on the visual slide. I'm going to take a few minutes to give you an overview of the book. It focuses on the war on terror under the Bush administration from 2001 to 2008. The book begins by looking at one specific dimension of this war, the turn to bioterrorism, in other words, the use of germ weapons like anthrax or smallpox. The U.S. government turned its attention to bioterrorism in a number of ways. It exaggerated and fabricated bioweapons threats from nations like Iraq and took action against these nations on the basis of those purported threats, notably the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Secondly, the U.S. focus on bioterrorism entailed revamping dangerous research into bioweapons, so-called biodefense research. The book examines the way the U.S. government justified its offensive measures abroad and its domestic biodefense industry by employing Islamophobic discourses intertwined with ideas about scientific progress and Western superiority. One important figure in these Islamophobic discourses is the notion of a femme fatale Arab Muslim scientist turned bioterrorist. I show how the United States used this figure to foment the notion of a bioterror threat and thus the need for its vast biodefense industry against such a threat. The first two chapters of the book explore these gendered and race discourses that support the U.S. biodefense industry. The last two chapters of the book look at the enlistment of public health into post-9/11 biodefense. One key example I focus on is a preemptive vaccination campaign that vaccinated frontline healthcare workers against smallpox in case of a biological attack from, for example, Iraq. I discuss the campaign's vaccination of nurses, who then became the feminized face of biodefense, a face of white vulnerability that echoed larger post-9/11 portrayals of the United States as a vulnerable nation in need of protection from terror threats. Again, discourses serving to lend justification to aggressive, preemptive actions by the U.S. in the name of the war on terror. The book's examination of public health's role in the war on terror ends with the Bush administration's shift to pandemic preparedness by 2005. I touch on long-time issues concerning global disparities in health response, such as vaccine nationalism, which is the hoarding of supplies by the U.S. and other wealthy nations. And here again, I focus on how discourses enable certain power structures while blocking other possibilities. The overall case the book is making is that the war on terror served as a period when the United States significantly amplified its bio-imperial capacity. In other words, the systems of power and ideologies that help the United States control biological materials, in this case germs, on a global scale and for the benefit of elites within the United States. My audience for this book is really the scientists and healthcare workers who work on germs and disease control, and whose work can get entangled in U.S. government priorities that are violent, colonial, and reproducing systems of oppression on a global scale. I also wrote this book for a gender and ethnic studies audience, to turn our attention to the way that the war on terror, with its gender and Islamophobic discourses, can also play out in science and health domains, which many of us may not always be attuned to. I hope this gives you a good taste of my book, and I hope you will check it out further at the link to the Rutgers website in my description below. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.